All right, so I'm gonna play it all the way through. Then I'm gonna give you my analysis of what we're looking at. So check it out. One more time. One more time from this side. All right, so now what we're looking at is a rebound, right? And clearly I did not get the rebound. But what just happened was that I seen the potential to get an offensive rebound. So, and I had an opening to the paint to beat everybody to it. So I'm assuming that I would get it. And luckily enough, it came down right in my direction, although I still didn't get it. And I'm going to explain why I did not get it. Here's the main thing that happened. Well, one thing is that it's because it's an offensive rebound, but I'm going to explain why that is later. So I'm going at it, and when I get to it, I want to get to it, I'm forced to, boom, stop in my tracks, right? 2K does this a lot. Boom, with the whole, either it's a force field, like the invisible barrier, right? That when you're trying to run at something and then you can't because you're running into like this force field, this invisible wall. And sometimes, like in this instance, I'm just forced to stop on a dime against my own will. Boom. I guess you could say, it's still something like a force field. Boom, right here. You can just tell by how unnatural the stop was. It was just like it was on a dime, right? And even though I beat everybody to it, the fact that I was forced to stop on a dime prevented me from actually being able to jump at it, in the manner which I should have been, and it also prevented me from getting into the correct position. So in reality, I wanted to be somewhere right up in here, but the game forced me to stop out here, and James Harden is back here, and he's allowed to jump into it while I'm stuck in my spot for the most part. He's allowed to just jump into it and beat me to the rebound, right? And I'm wondering, like, man, what just happened? Like, I was right there for it. How did I still get beat to it when I beat everybody to the spot? Is because I was forced to stop, and I could kind of feel that I was being forced to stop running. Now, second thing, like I said, it's an offensive rebound, right? That I'm trying to track down. And what 2K does with the offensive to defensive rebounding ratio is that they make it far more difficult for you to get an offensive rebound because they're trying to emulate real life scenarios or real life offensive to defensive rebounding ratio. So in real life, you're always going to get far more defensive rebounds than offensive just due to the mechanics and the structure of basketball when somebody shoots the ball and it comes down. All right, so your offense is always on the outside of the court. The defense is the closest to the court all the time. All right, they're always the closest to it, and they're always more fierce when it comes down to trying to get the rebound. On top of the fact that they're already automatically in the proper position to get to it in the first place. All right, but in 2K, their thing is to force you out of getting the offensive rebounds because on the game you could break that structure a lot of times. You could, like what I just did right here. I beat everybody on defense to the rebound. You could do this a lot. So what they would do instead of having the defense muscle you through it, they would just prevent you from getting it anyways. They'll force you into an animation that will make you miss the rebound. Or they'll force you, like what they just did to me, they just forced me to stop running. So they have a restriction on your ability to get offensive rebounds that is not organic. They force it to happen instead of allowing things to play out naturally. Because naturally, this is me right here. This is my rebound. I beat all the defense to it. But since I'm forced to stop, I'm not allowed to get it, and computer is allowed to charge at it while I'm forced to stop on a dime. Even look at Kyrie Irving. He was allowed to just charge at it. James Harden, he was allowed to jump into it, right? Meanwhile, I'm forced to stand in my spot. Why? Once again, because the offensive to defensive rebounding ratio is under management by the algorithm, right? It's under management because they don't want you to just walk out of a game with 12 offensive rebounds and 7 defensive rebounds, right? Even though you might beat computer to it 12 times, right? So you're actually supposed to get it 12 times. But that looks ridiculous on a stat sheet. It doesn't really make sense. All right. So their way of trying to make sense out of the offensive to defensive rebounding ratio is by preventing you from being able to get the offensive rebounds that rightfully belong to you. Right? And a lot of times they'll just allow a computer to man, I had a game, what was that last game? I think computer had like, matter of fact, I'll take it back to 2K21. I had a game in 2K21 where computer had 12 offensive rebounds to our 1 throughout the entire game. They snatched down 12. No, matter of fact, online, it was by halftime. They had 12 offensive rebounds to my 1. Right? And it's because of things like this right here, not being allowed to get to it. And also, they had this thing, I'm not sure, was it 21 or 19? Because I didn't play 20. It probably was 19 because that's when the offensive rebounding for computer was at its worst. I mean, you can, at any given moment, computer can snatch 5 or 6 or 7 offensive rebounds in a row and constantly miss, but they're giving it to them back to back like that because they want computer to score on that possession, right? When they're desperate to enforce computer scoring a bucket, they'd allow them to snatch offensive rebounds like crazy. I mean, with anybody that's under the court, you can have 2 or 3 good rebounders there. Computer can have one average rebounder or somebody that's not even a rebounder. They'll snatch a board over you on the offensive rebound. Why? Because it's already in the script that they're going to, one, get those rebounds, at the very least score, right? So they're supposed to get the bucket, so they're going to constantly allow them to snatch boards at times. All right. Matter of fact, let's look at what the offensive rebounds look like in this game. All right. It looks more reasonable, 1-to-1. All right. But that just about do it for this video. Peace.